Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Hey Sister, how you doing?
Hello, sister. That I don't know what happened, but the music, I missed part of the intro. That's why I was like, "Oh, okay, we starting." Hello, how are you,
We
sister?
getting started. Time to get started. I'm doing good, sister. I'm doing well. And see, she's laughing at us already, but we got our super fan. Jody is in the house with us tonight. Hey, good
Hey,
evening.
sisters. Good
Hey,
Hey,
evening.
Miss
Jody.
Jody. Not a
How you
Miss
Hey.
doing?
I'm
Jody is.
good. I'm good. I'm good. Excited to be here. Looking forward to discussing the hot topics with my girls.
Yes. Well, listen, Jody's always on. She's in the comments. And so tonight we ask you to do the same. So, sister, take a moment and text somebody and tell them, come on to the show. Did you text some folks, show to tell them, come
I
on and
did.
watch us
I
live?
did.
Okay.
I
Let
did.
me let me send it to some folks too right now so we can have a good, healthy discussion because tonight we got some things to discuss. Okay.
All righty, sounds excellent. Let me
But what we
see.
not talking about tonight. So let's just clarify some of the things we not talking about.
Okay.
We not talking about Donald Trump tonight,
Okay.
No,
even though he been in court every day,
Of course.
looking like who did it and what for.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, we ain't talking about that.
There's his.
We ain't
He's.
talking about the NBA playoffs because, in my estimation, they gonna be pretty much trash anyway. Um,
I'm still working to pull. I want to send a link. I didn't want to just. That's why I'm still okay. Here we go. Here we go.
okay, you working on it? Work on it, girl.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I sent a link. I didn't want to just
I'm just,
willy nilly say log in, and then people be like, I don't know
I
how, and
don't know
then this.
how. You got a
Mm,
link.
right, exactly. Okay. So we don't have to talk about this, and we don't have to talk about the NFL draft that occurred either. But the young man from Opelousas, I've seen his video a few times talking about getting his jacket from Macy's. I don't know. Have you seen that one?
I've seen that one.
Okay, it's
No, I have
really
not.
because somebody, he's going to the Bills. They ask him about his jacket. He has this bright yellow jacket on, like kind of like it's made for cold weather. And he's like,
Okay.
I played in Michigan for 2 years before I transferred. He's like, I mean, every bit of Southern Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. He's from Opelousas. He's like, and you know where I got it from? I guess. I know you ain't gonna guess right, but guess it. And so the guy guessed says something. He like Macy's. It's like, yeah, they have some good sales. I got this for like $70. You could get a trench coat for like $100. And so then the lady in the audience, she thought she was gonna be clever, like, yes, and they have the Thanksgiving Day sales. He's like, yeah, but everybody's there for Thanksgiving. You can't go there. That's not the real sales. It's so cute. So that's about the most that I've got to say about the NFL draft.
Okay, and let's see what else might we not talk about tonight that's been happening out here in these worlds.
That's enough. We can just get to
That's
what we
enough.
gonna talk about.
Well, then, in typical Hey Sister fashion, we ask that you like, follow, share, and subscribe. Let people know that we are here on Sundays. Join the conversation in the comments. That's where all the dialogue takes place. And you can also subscribe to our website. You can check out our merch and never miss an episode of Hey Sister if you go to the website. All right. Where should we
All right.
start? There's so much to start with.
Well, let's
But
just talk about the Shay Shay. Let's go on in the Shay Shay.
let's go. Listen. Okay. So Club Shay Shay is at it again. And one actress, comedian, um,
activist,
radio personality, activist,
Author.
author, thinker, thought leader, Amanda Seals, influencer. I mean, you can drive, like we talk about multi-hyphenate. This is a multi-hyphenate. And she was on Club Shay Shay. She's loved by many, misunderstood by many, and walking in the space. And doing her best to take up space, stand on the side of righteousness and whatever else. But she found herself, and she asked for this. See, I don't know if people remember. So now she's having some, about how the experience was. But I remember when Cat Williams was there, after the Cat Williams, she said, if you want to have someone on who talks about how you can still have a thriving career without being in these certain networks and spaces, please have me on the show. She called it to herself, and now she was there, and she made that choice. So when you do that, I don't want to hear now about the problems with the choice you made, because it was a choice that you made. Because now it's like, oh, well, then you see how they put this, how they phrase that this, the clickbait, this, and can't do that, sis. So that's off top. I would like to get y'all's impressions before I dive in. We're going to start with you, Jodie, because you are our guest.
Okay. Thanks for letting me go first. So, a moment of transparency. I really didn't know who she was. So when Christina and I talked the other day, I was like, okay. So I knew I had to go and watch Club Shay Shay. Not a fan of Shannon Sharp. Just let me put that out there. But she's very smart. I think she's very intelligent, but she speaks her truth. She stands up for things, the right, and she doesn't understand that some people may not always welcome that, right? Some people, they say, I've read some stories where they say she come across as really strong and like a mean girl, and some people are going to think that, but I think that that's something that she has to learn to accept. Either she's going to be who she says she is, she's going to stand 10 toes down, or she's gonna back off and decide she wants to be liked by everybody. She truly wants people to stand up, and forgive me because the dog has a toy, but she truly wants to be someone that stands up for people, but she's bothered by the fact that people don't stand up for her. Okay, so stop standing up for people. I don't like that she self-diagnosed herself with autism. I don't think, did she ever say she went to a doctor? I didn't recall seeing that. But yeah, and the whole party situation where she showed up at the party, she said she was invited. They wouldn't let her stay. Just leave. Don't keep going back. I mean, because that's inviting, and that's apparent, and that's triggering for her, because of course it hurt her feelings. But yeah, she needs therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like she is in therapy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I think I'm going to go back and I want to read more about her, and I'm going to start following her on social media, because I kind of liked her, but I'm one of those, if she comes across too strong, then I'll let her be. I won't, she doesn't know me and I don't know her. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Sister, what about you? What say you?
So I think, overall, I thought it was a good conversation. I'm surprised that I listened to the full 3 hours. Again, a very long conversation. Listen, I think that, so there were a lot of things that she mentioned that I felt like I could really relate to, in terms of being someone who is trying to stand up for people and often feels like the same isn't reciprocated, and understanding that you should not expect yourself in other people, but it's we do that, right? That's what being criticized for being strong and opinionated and direct. That is something that I know that I've run into, especially in the workplace, where if you don't really
Because
know,
Christina, you're so big and strong. You keep
if you don't know my personality, or if you don't have a relationship with me, then sometimes when I comment on stuff, in addition to the fact that in my case, not in hers, but in my case, I am 5 foot 11 inches tall. I can be deemed intimidating. You know, I've had conversations with people when I'm genuinely not trying to be sarcastic, and I've been accused of being sarcastic. So I certainly could relate to some of those areas. And then I think the challenge, honestly, is of course the things that she was being asked about. A lot of the situations she was being asked about are situations that have had a negative impact on her. Now, if she had been asked a different set of questions, maybe, because I know a lot of people got the impression like, man, so everything always bad happening to her. She always got a negative situation. But I think a lot of it had to do with the line of questioning. Now, that being said, I do know someone who worked for her who had not good things to say about her a long time ago, before any of these more recent incidents. But again, sometimes we bandwagon, right? So when one person jumps on and says this person is an awful person, very often in this place of social media specifically, folks like to jump on the bandwagon. They like to kick people with it when they're down. We have a history in this country, like we want to build people up only to tear them all the way down. So, you know, it's at the end of the day, everything that she said is her truth. And now she claims it is the truth. I can't say that because all of us skew to what our beliefs are, right? Um, it's her truth, and she's entitled to her truth. I can understand a lot of her perspective. It made me also, because you know, you and I've talked about this before, Demetria. I think I've mentioned to you of late. I'm like, man, I'm wondering if I have ADD or ADHD based on certain things. We know in the medical industry, yes, medical racism is a real thing. And so very often women, Black people are misdiagnosed or are not diagnosed with certain things. I didn't get the impression that she self-diagnosed. That has since been something that came out, I think, later. I heard her say, yes, I took the test. Yes, I have a diagnosis. So I was a little confused on exactly how this diagnosis came about. But nonetheless, I don't know that it changes a whole. I mean, if neurologically, I mean, you, Demetria, with Dr. Alana, you all talk about the brain functioning all the time. Neurologically, yes. If you're neurodivergent, is neurodivergent the proper way of saying it? Then what society is accepted as the norm, you're different from the norm, right? So I don't think that that's a impossible thing to be. I do think, though, sometimes, you know, maybe it ain't that. Maybe it's just that you come across a certain way to some people, and some people don't like it. Some people don't like people to be direct. Like some people like people who are passive. Some people like people to always play the middle of the road and not, you know, rock the boat either way. Some people like that. Myself, I prefer people to just tell me straight up, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? We don't need to beat around the bush. So I thought it was an interesting interview, and I don't think there was anything that she said though that I didn't know specifically.
Okay, very good. So, since you talked about the autism diagnosis, one of the things that I've taken away from this, you know, all of us are on the spectrum, okay, right? Because the spectrum goes from absent to like fully over here, right? So if you think about a color spectrum, it goes from white, which is absence of color, to black, which is all the colors combined, right? And then there's all this stuff in between. So all of us are on the spectrum in some sort of way, shape, or form. We're all on a spectrum. And I think that middle part is where our humanity is.
Mm-hmm.
It's mixed, it's messy, it's all kind of shades and colors, and all too often in this society, we want it to be on the white or the black end, like on the extreme. And that's not where life resides. And I think Amanda Seals was representing all what's in the middle to me in that interview. I identify with many things she said. As you know, my white classmates called me the mouth of the South. Why did they choose to call me the mouth of the South? Because I always had something to say, but I always had something to say about things that were wrong. I always stood up to defend, always was on the side of what's right. I was kicked out of class for challenging teachers.
So let's talk about that part specifically. Can you give some background to sort of what was said? Because, you know, Miss Jodie kind of had a different perspective. So I thought that was cool.
I was kicked out of class, American history, 11th grade. I was kicked out of that class more than once. But when my teacher said that the Egyptians were of European descent, and then I had to do one of these numbers, like, where they do that at? I say Egypt sits on the continent of Africa. You know, this Middle East designation, this is something y'all just started with. Mm-hmm. That we had an exchange, and I said, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna bring my evidence. Came back, brought my evidence, talked about Kush, Kemet, all the things, and how people they migrated because you know the Nile don't run up and down. The Nile goes the other way, and how people followed the river. So they went from the southern part of the continent up to the northern part. So they still African. And they still black. But no, they wasn't black. And I was like, I'm not letting you say that while all these people sitting in this classroom. And they gonna believe you. Couldn't do it. So I got kicked out of class. I had another experience. Same class. You mean we spent 2 weeks on the crash of the 1920 stock market, and we walk into class today and the entire civil rights movement, the notes we need for our final is written up on the board, but we're not going to talk about it? In an American history class? An honors American history class. Oh no, I got a problem. Was kicked out of class too that day. And then when we, in between classes, when we were on that first recess, I looked at all my black friends and like, what the hell wrong with y'all? Why y'all let me be in there by myself? Well, you always have, yeah, you right, always got something to say. You should be just as mad as I am. I felt all what she said because I lived that experience. So and that wasn't the only one.
She was basically talking about an experience with a white teacher who was talking about the Aboriginal people and basically called them a Stone Age civilization. And so Amanda was like, no, they literally are in existence right now. Yeah. And then she tried to clean it up, but she said something else that was equally as offensive. And then Amanda spoke about that. I think she said she was in 8th grade, maybe at the time. And so when the teacher brought her principal's office, it was a black man who was the principal and some other personnel who were black people. And so when it was asked, oh, are you bringing her here because she's talking too much in class? The teacher's like, well, no, she actually helps the other students. And then when he's like, oh, so it's because of her grades. And she's like, well, no, she has A's in the class. So then it was like, so what is she here for? Because she's challenges me in front of the other students, basically, was the commentary. And of course, Amanda's position, she's like the black personnel, the principal and the two other ladies are like this chick. And so, and she was saying it was because she was racist. And Shannon's rebuttal was, no, I mean, I think when the way I grew up, you just don't challenge adults. And I don't think it was racist. I don't think it was a black and white thing. I think you just don't challenge adults. Her further commentary later, because she didn't ever let it go. She just always, she just told some stories and then circled right back.
Yeah.
Her later commentary was like, I have a master's degree in XYZ, Black American literature or Black African American history and culture, something like that. Her point was, you're talking to somebody who has studied this, who is learned in this area. This is not what I think. This is what I know. I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and before all the magic, i.e., the theme parks and stuff were there, Florida has a history. Central Florida has a history. So she's trying to educate Shannon and say, no, I'm clear that this was about race. And he was trying to say, no, I think it was just about an adult not wanting to be challenged by a child. And I knew our experiences. Now, you know, you got kicked out of class for those things. I didn't get kicked out of class so much, but we both shared an English teacher who I think she didn't like me because she didn't like you. So but she had this lady who was getting her teaching certificate. You know, they come in and they do student teaching. And the lady was so nervous, she kept laughing throughout, but not like it was a nervous laughter. And it was annoying. And it was like, what is like, and as a teenager, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, why you keep on laughing? And I felt like, we're the honor students and you this nervous? Like, what you gonna do if you get into a room full of kids that act a whole fool? And so I made a comment about like, what's wrong? Like, girl, what's wrong with you? kind of thing. And, you know, I was sent to the principal's office and we had to have a conference. But I'm like, you know, my thing has always been, when we've been sent to the principal's office, another time I was sent to the principal's office because I didn't understand. My biology teacher was sick. We had a coach, a football coach, who was being our substitute teacher. And he was explaining something and I didn't understand it. And I was like, I do not understand it. And I kept asking him questions. He couldn't explain it. So I end up like saying to somebody, you know, one of my classmates, just like, can you help? And I was trying to get understanding. And the coach, and he was like, you know, you need to be quiet or I'm going to put you out. And I'm like, no, you're not going to, like, you're not putting me out of class. Like, I'm trying to, you're not going to put me out, was what I said. And he raised up on me. And ultimately, I was put out of the class and went to the principal's office. And, you know, I got sent back to class because it's like, you ain't dealing with kids that's just disruptive to be disruptive. You dealing with straight A students who are saying you sound stupid. And you and maybe that's not cool to tell an adult, but at the same time, you tripping because I'm trying to understand and you're not doing a good job of explaining it to me. So
get your weight up is what they say in today's term. But even back then, though, you know, I understood her. I understood the being fair skin issue. I've understood people trying to pitch you, don't like you just because they don't like you. I understood. So Amanda, girl, if you ever want to come on and have a conversation about it, I understood. Now, when I disagree with you, I'm a disagree. And I think it is okay for us to have disagreement, not see things from each other's perspective, because we all have our own brain. We all have our own experiences. We all have our own programming that informs that experience. And that was evident in the conversation and their exchange and their back and forth as well.
Right. Miss Jodie has a perspective.
Yeah.
So I didn't think Shannon was being combative. I don't think he was dismissing her. I think Shannon, like me, was raised in the South, in South Carolina. And for me, it was like we just, as a child, as a teenager, we didn't challenge adults, right? You know, I too heard things
Even when
that
they were wrong.
I would go back home and discuss it with my mom, but I wouldn't call her out in the class. I wouldn't call them out in the class because that's the way we were raised. And but I didn't, you know, I wouldn't have, if she had, I wouldn't have said that it was racist in South Carolina, but not knowing how things are growing up here and going to school in Orlando, I can't say her situation wasn't racist. That's just her. But I don't think that's what he was saying. He tried to get her to see from his side that, yeah, this could, you know, it could have been the fact that she didn't want to be challenged by you. You're a kid, you know. So that part, you know, I can agree to disagree. I don't know what her truth is, but, you know, for me, we just grew up and we didn't challenge adults. We didn't sit around and listen to adult conversations. When adults were talking, we went and played with the children. If we mess around and we said something in an adult conversation, you can best believe we got the eye. And then when we got back home, we got everything else.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I agree with that, Miss Jodie. I totally agree with that. I'm gonna tell you, and this is gonna sound out of place, but it's the truth. Before I got to high school, I always thought my teachers were smarter than me. When I got to high school, it started to be revealed that all of them were not. And so, and there were absolutely teachers I never would have challenged because I knew they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And so I think that, and again, it was never like I'm challenging you because I'm trying to be disruptive.
Right.
But when you are centering whiteness, or when you are deliberately disseminating wrong information because you are propagating white supremacist ideologies, whether you think you are or not. If you can write the whole civil rights movement on a board, one class, one period, it's a problem, like you said. And then we talked about all kind of other topics way longer than that, like literally. And I didn't have your experience. I wasn't in your class, but I do remember we really only had probably 4 pages in that book that was dedicated to anybody Black.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular class, I didn't have the same experiences that you had, but there were other classes where those experiences came up. And it's like, no, you're not going to, I cannot be, I can't responsibly sit here and let you tell these white kids this wrong information and not say anything.
Absolutely.
So I got her on that point too. But let's go on to the next topic.
I'd say if you haven't watched the interview, if you've been a fan of hers or tangentially, or you just heard about it, watch it. And I think gives you concept, but it also shows as I said, the spectrum of all of our lived experiences and how we come into this world and into these different places with that different lived experience. I will also say, and I will have to pull or ask our production system to look for articles, but there are more data out there now about especially women and even Black women being diagnosed with things like autism and ADHD as adults, because high achieving women, high achieving girls, it was the expectation. So when you were always bouncing and doing all myriad of 100 things, 111 things, that was just expected of girls, and not understanding that actually there was some neurological differences. And a lot of time we overcompensate with high achievement because we are bouncing all over the place. But there are data out there that's supporting that now. So,
but did we talk about how she seemed, everything bad always seemed to happen to her? Like something was always wrong.
Well, that's why I said I don't know if it is
But
because
she did say that, well, she's like, there are some positive things. She did try to bring in some of the positive things. So was it the line of questioning or genuinely, let's tell the truth. We are so hardwired for negativity that an interview about all the positive and great things that were going on in her life was not going to get viewed. Let's tell the truth, shame the devil.
right.
If Cat Williams would have went on there and would have just talked about all the positive things that he doing, if people wouldn't have watched that either. It wouldn't have got those views. We are so hardwired for that. We are so addicted. Think about why our news programming is the way our news programming is. We get the weather and traffic and murder, 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 murder.
Yeah, I watch Dateline all the time, so I guess that's par for the course. I guess I don't know.
I don't know.
I
Did
mean,
you want to talk about the because we talked about in the pre-show the Issa Rae aspect. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about that part.
Yes.
I think that so the issue around, like she said, she's been protecting her and by not speaking out or not saying things, but she talked about how really all the years was tough for her on that set. What I thought was interesting. But we were recounting the episode around our sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and when she wore the sweater. So she's talent. I'm sure costuming, got a sweater, and she wore it on the show. And then there was backlash, and Issa made a little flippant comment about, oh well, they can get over it or something like that. I would have to go back and find the exact comment that she made when she made it. And I really wasn't offended because it was alluded to, innuendo suggested that they were AKAs. And I think they had even said it because both the character Molly, which was played by Yvonne Orji, and Amanda Seale's character Tiffany, they were sorority sisters. So we knew that. And she wore some beautiful pagan green ensembles throughout the show. Okay. But when she wore the sweater and people had backlash, so when people asked Issa about it, she made a little flippant comment about why we should get over it. The problem is that they're trademarks that were violated. And I don't know if we sued or not. I hope we do. I think we sent a cease and desist. I'm not sure. And when I say we, I'm talking about Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. But what I do know for sure is that other people who worked on that show absolutely knew. And for that flippancy to be allowed, or for them to use the brand and trademarks without getting permission in advance was absolutely terrible and dismissive and disregarding. And I didn't like it. And so when she talked about all the other things about Issa, I was recounting this situation and her flippancy about that, about like they'll just get over it. And I was like, oh, well, I could see how she could be a person, because I don't know her from a hole in the ground, but could be a person who just was like, get over it, whatever, like, you good. Like, that seemed like those characteristics were consistent, at least based on that part. Now, again, that's me taking, okay, how that person responded to this one situation and then applying it across the board.
Right. Well, she what Amanda Seales also alluded to was the fact that she was very much like, I'm not in it when whatever was happening between her publicist and Amanda. So she was like, I'm not in it. And so in the same way, what happened was somebody who was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha made a comment, And Issa Rae decided to respond to that person like, yep, I'm going to get right on that with HBO. And it was done in a very flippant, sarcastic sort of way. But the fact of the matter was, all AKAs, ourselves included, were not outraged about the outfitting. But when you start having conversations about brands and logos and trademarks, it does feel like, well, if you're going to show respect to Apple,
yes,
and cover that the Apple on a laptop, then you should be as respectful to others, especially those who are that are owned by Black people. So there's that. But I to your point, it's not feasible because we saw the response.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, moving right along, and we've talked a little bit about this because now we are, let's see, November, December, January, February, March. We're like 6 months since the attack on in Israel by the Hamas group, and then the ensuing war. And right now on college campuses across this country, there are protests. And some people are like, oh, the outrage, oh, people don't feel safe and what have you. And it's like, you know, it is so reminiscent of the 60s. And you have to be a student of I didn't live in the 60s. So, you know, we had Sunday school this morning and our father was like, it's reminding him of giving him very 1968 vibes. And it's giving me those vibes too. And we know that all progress starts with movements of young people. And so I think that it is a powerful sentiment and statement to say, we want our university to divest. We want you to treat these people with humane conditions. We want you to stop a genocide. But then I know, like, even having conversations with our son early on when they said, okay, well, the United States could do more. And we start asking, well, what could the United States do? Do you want us to send troops? No, I don't want to do that. Do you want to volunteer to go? Right? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Like, so what can you do? And again, that's why I said that spectrum. It's like we all like we want to be as one thing of this. It's like, oh, if you protest, you anti-Semitic. No, I'm not anti-Semitic. Actually, I don't think none of this shit is right. That's how I feel. I feel like it's all wrong. I feel like everybody on all of the sides is wrong. But I do think that if people have, and we have to be careful and watch these laws that they're trying to change laws about what the First Amendment actually means. Because the First Amendment allows you to protest and allows you to protest and to come together. But a lot of laws in states, like the one we live in, the large assembly of people is they are putting laws against it. So you need to be very conscientious and careful about what it means. So these people are putting themselves on the line for something. I want to know, you know, like the 60s, 60 years ago at this point. But to me, this is their Vietnam War.
Right. I was going to say, protest on college campuses, that isn't new. That's at Kent State when they're like, when there one in Jackson, Jackson State.
Yeah, absolutely. And people have lost their lives in some of those protests. But we know that what made the civil rights movement move and turn, SNCC, and in Birmingham, when those kids stepped out of school, and that was like high school and younger, middle school and high school kids, and they started walking the streets and protesting. And they were putting hoses on them. That's when the American consciousness turned. So I think that people, need to study history instead of just making comments. I think they need to look at the laws that are being passed in their state around the right to assemble and protest. And I think that people need to be very careful on who we want to protect. Because, like you said, there's a lot of fervor, excuse me, about anti-Semitism. But the truth is, they're cousins. They're all Semites because they all are descendants of Abraham. Y'all don't want me to go into the Bible on y'all. See, they cousins. They fighting over there with their cousins. This is a family feud. This is a family feud that's been going on for millennia.
Yeah, so here's my perspective. Number one, I'm gonna allude to Amanda Seales again, because again, we know that she has been very vocal about these protests and she's pro-Palestinian and what have you. If we look at a interview like she did and say everything can't be labeled racism, then everything can't be labeled anti-Semitism. Like we have to pick and choose these things very carefully. I believe that if we're silent about hate, it will come and visit our front door. And in a lot of cases, there have been a lot of people who have been silent about it when it happened to other groups. So, number one, I applaud.
Like the Muslims after 9/11.
So, number one, I applaud the young people who are standing up and saying, no, this is not, we do not support genocide. And for me, it's like, how are we having a conversation as if saying I do not support genocide means I hate fill in the blank? No, I do not support genocide, period. And I applaud these students for standing up for what they believe in. On the USC campus, for example, University of Southern California, a lot of it stemmed from the young lady who should have been the rightful valedictorian to give a speech. They were afraid that she was going to inject in her speech her beliefs about this, what's going on. I watched on Friday the protest there, and it seemed reasonably calm to me. There was a moment where tensions flared between the police and some people on the campus, but I can't say that those were students on the campus, right? Because people do come from the outside when stuff is going down.
Yeah, because some of them see it as an opportunity for them to get in and get their jabs or licks in or whatever.
Absolutely. And so, but the core group that had been protesting, it was a group of students sitting in a circle on the ground. And then there was a larger circle around them that had locked arms, and they were standing to protect the students who were sitting on the ground. They had gallons of milk. Now, they ain't had a lot of them, but they had at least 3 gallons of milk. In the event, they got pepper spray to put on their faces. So, and every one of those people on the outer circle who was finally arrested, they left that circle peacefully. There were interestingly some white students who they spoke to who were like, this was non-violent. It turned violent, or it turned aggressive when the police came. They were like, we were doing yoga earlier. They had concerts. It was yoga. And I was like, right. You were doing yoga. That wasn't something that was cause for the university to call the police in. And there was a father who was there, and he was like, my daughter helped organize this. So yes, I'm here. I'm here to support my daughter. And all I could think is, if you know how much it costs to go to University of Southern California at this point, I wish you would tell me I can't protest on this campus here where I'm paying all these monies for my education. What do you want them to be? Isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? Aren't they supposed to be the next generations of leaders that you're shaping their minds and you're shaping their ability to stand up? Isn't that what this college experience is supposed to be about? Again, there were some aggressors, there was some agitators, but that wasn't who I saw at the core of the actual protest. So it, and I know it got tough at Columbia. It got tough down there at Emory. Mm-hmm. But again, every civil rights movement that I've ever seen in my life, it's two people you can guarantee who gonna be there: students and women. Black women very often, because a lot of those people at USC who were getting arrested in the outer circle were Black women. I think we counted at least 7, I think, people we saw get arrested, and I think 5 of them were Black women. So I don't know why. And again, if the demand is divest in these companies that profit off of war, I don't think that's a how people are tying that to anti-Semitism and how they're suggesting that is because the people who want them to divest are also not for a one state solution or what have you. I'm just like, I don't see it. I don't see it. But again, I did attend Southern University where there was a protest as well many years ago not many years ago, in the 70s, and 2 young men lost their lives that day. Denver Smith and Leonard Brown, and they weren't even in the protest, really. They were just the casualties of it. And at that time, those students were standing up because they wanted better curriculum. They wanted to have choice in their curriculum. They wanted to have more opportunities than what they had been originally given. So, the idea that we are upset that young people are standing up, that's problematic to me.
Mm-hmm. They're canceling graduations, and I heard them mention on the news that for the colleges and universities that are canceling their graduation, those are the same students who had their high school graduations canceled because of COVID.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. So,
that is tough. That is tough. Hey, little baby.
Lee.
All right.
How you doing, Bentley? So listen, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to this, some of us, so we mature and we get comfortable. What are we willing to do?
Yeah.
Yep.
What are we willing to do? Where are we willing to put our dollars or withhold our dollars? When are we willing to put ourselves in harm's way and not?
Yeah.
And I think these are all questions that we really need to think about as we continue to have people who want to push us to the further extremes. And remember, life is all in this middle part of the spectrum. That's where our humanity is. And we need to start talking about our humanity, our shared humanity. But I know that, and even watch some of the language, right? As people are being described. When you watch a newscast, listen and watch how these people are being described. Like you said, these are students who have invested $250,000 in their education or more. And you want to call them hooligans and hoodlums and this, that, and the other. What?
Right.
It's a mess. It's a mess to me. All right.
There was a comment that
we had a couple comments. Let me find it. Okay, first of all, hey Keisha, thank you. You gotta come on next, girl. So she said, you can't tell me somebody on staff wasn't Black or in the Divine Nine. Absolutely, because they were. One of the executive producers, I used to watch the Wind Down. I watched the whole show. It's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. Mother and wife are members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So he absolutely should have known when once they were being filmed, and maybe he wasn't there on the day it was filming, and maybe he didn't work with costuming and say that, hey, if we're going to use any marks, that we need to protect them. Absolutely. How about that? Let's see. Protesting is fine, but when you start breaking into buildings and ruining property, it's giving me January 6th. Yes, and so that's where that fine line is. I don't know who is breaking in or ruining property, but I also know that sometimes that's how people get. That's how sometimes they get attention.
Yeah.
And yes, they should be held accountable for that, because then you've gone too far. But if you're willing to be held accountable, but we also know, and like you mentioned Kent State earlier, Jodie, we know what happened at Kent State. We know what happened at the Democratic National Convention in 1968. We've seen this before, and usually when the police come in, that's when shit really does go sideways. It goes really sideways, because they're not looking at their humanity. They're just looking at, we are coming in to suppress and control.
Right. And I think Lakeisha had a comment about seeing a Black woman. And so I saw on Emory's campus where there was a Black woman who was handcuffed, and she was singing a spiritual from Shirley Caesar. And so there was commentary even about that, about in our lived experiences, our parents' lived experiences, in our historical in the way we protested. Those spirituals are a part of that protest, as a part of our protest, and again, just having Michael Johnson make comments, the comments that he's made, and again, this idea that everything is anti-Semitism.
Right.
Not wanting people to die does not mean I hate Jewish people.
Right.
Not wanting to see babies starved.
Yeah. Not wanting children to not know the difference between a bomb falling from the sky or food. It's not. And like you said, this on some Ishmael and Isaiah stuff. Or Isaac and Ishmael.
Ishmael.
That's on that. Y'all, I know what we say is not going to change the dynamic of a millennia long issue. But at the end of the day, I don't think what these students are asking for, like, if you're not even willing to listen to the request, if you're just going to say, we're not going to divest, we're going to call the police on our own children.
But this happened in the 90s with apartheid protests on college campuses. So
we're going to call the police on these children who pay to go to these schools. We are going to, again, we're going to cancel graduation. So we're just going to continue to hurt the very people who have paid for and supported these institutions. And because obviously, Robert Kraft's money is longer. So.
Ciao. All right. Well, we're going to talk about another controversial topic. I don't know if you had. So because our good sorority sister Yvette Nicole Brown asked us to watch the Good Times animated series, to not judge it by the trailer, to not judge it by the talk. That is why I watched all 10 episodes, and I asked my sister to watch. She asked Jodie to watch. Now, I got through all 10. Sister, how many did you watch?
I'm on number 8, and I'll be finished with all 10 today. I just didn't get it done before, and I just started yesterday. So, I think I thugged it.
All right, she thugged it out. All right, Jodie, how many you got?
In the truth of transparency, I got through one, and I was not going to go back and finish it, but after our pre-discussion, I'm gonna go back and give it some more because the whole time I'm like, Steph, I think you should just stick to basketball. That's about it. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I watched the one episode and I started. Did I start on Friday? I think I started on Friday night. I watched the one episode. I said, yeah, I'm not doing this. And then I started on the interview with Amanda. And so I finished it yesterday because it was really pretty good. And so, I want to hear more about her. But yeah, I'll go back and watch the rest of that. I may just put it on one day while I'm in the office with my earbuds on, working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do that. Because like I said, it was giving me, what did I say? Boondocks and Baby Kid deal, whatever. But yeah, I'll go back and I'll finish the rest of them.
Okay. All right. So sister.
Yes.
What say you? You got through 8.
I got through 8. I will finish the rest.
And you said you got to get to at least episode what so people you can start
3. You got to get to episode 3 to be like, okay, I see the direction. And you got to get to episode 5 before you like, aha. And then you got to get to episode 7 for me before I chuckled for real. Like I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. That's funny right there. So yeah, at the end of the day, to your point, our sorority sister Yvette Nicole Brown was like, basically in a nutshell, I thought that, I thought y'all had put enough respect on my name by now that y'all would know I would not lend my name to such foolery.
And not just her name, because she is one of the she's one of the voice actors, as well as Marcia Martin, JB Smooth, to name a few. Tisha Campbell is also, yes, absolutely.
Jay Farrell, obviously, he has a multiple voices. Godfrey. So it's a few folks. I don't know why it hit her harder, I guess, because I don't even remember the other folks having nothing to say about it. But I will say, from the trailer, I was not impressed. I remember getting it from a friend on Instagram, and I was like, "Who asked for this? Why do we need this?" And I had no plans on watching. I saw the good sis make her plea and say, you know what, you should know me better than this by now to know I would not have lend my talent to something if it wasn't on the up and up. And so you were like, we got to watch. And I still put it off for a while. And I, I'm happy I watched it. I'm going to finish. I think there were definitely some good episodes that could warrant further conversation. I do still wonder though, why did they have to do it in the framework of Good Times, right? On the one hand, because it took a while before I realized, how are they even supposed to be related to the Evans family?
Right. That's what I'm.
Well, the daddy said that was his James Evans was his grandfather.
Correct. Yeah. But then, who was your daddy? Or was
that got to be Keith and Thelma's son?
No, his last name wouldn't be Evans then.
Oh no, sure wouldn't be. So JJ must have had a baby with Boom Boom Belinda or something. I don't know.
I don't know. So that's why I was like, okay, y'all really.
Or Michael could have a son. We don't know.
Right. But they didn't give us a lot of context as to how he was raised. We just know that James is his grandfather. It's interesting because obviously the Cabrini Green projects are no longer. So I'm like, okay, but they still in the projects in Chicago. Yeah, I thought it was, I guess I felt like the trailer was meant to be provocative because the trailer does not do it justice. I guess having it as a part of the Good Times lexicon, if you will, I think that it was
one of the last things Norman Lear put his name on, obviously, because the Good Times is a part of his
legacy, yes,
his estate.
Yeah. So and so it's like, so it just made me wonder, like, why Good Times? Now, here's what I will say. In the vein of, and we talked about it, Family Guy, The Simpsons, South Park, even the Boondocks, you know, we've seen animated series that have bucked against the system because perhaps people can take their medicine a little bit better when they have a spoonful of sugar with it.
Yeah.
That's what I assume is why we are confronting these sort of societal issues in an animated series. Because otherwise, I'm like, it literally could have been any other name other than Good Times.
Good times.
And it probably wouldn't have gotten the same draw or the attention.
Yeah, that's why I said it was meant to be provocative, obviously.
Well, I will say this, and I don't want to give too much away because, so what I will say is this: I believe in supporting all the shows, regardless. So the Upshaws, I will put it on, let it play. It'll take me, and I will let it run as a sleep show, and then I'll watch it another time and later to actually really pay attention to the episodes, right? Because I will play them 2, 3 times. Why? Because we know that if we play our shows 2, 3 times, we will get more shows. Okay? So the algorithms do matter, and we can impact those algorithms.
Right.
They did good when they first came out. I played it one time, then watch it all the way through, and then played it again. And then the next day it was like, okay, I'm gonna actually sit here and pay attention and watch. I think the commentary, although it is very subtle about Black mothers and their babies, that's why that character is a baby, is telling. Because the relationship between the father and the baby is different than the relationship between the mother and the baby. As you watch even more episodes, it becomes even more clear and evident about, that behavior, that dynamic, the interest in the behavior but in dynamic between the daughter and the mother, the Black daughter and the Black mother. We've been watching some of these videos about the Black mama, what is it called?
The mother wound.
The mother wound. Yeah. That commentary. And some of the things we've talked about with young Black men being lured and are attracted to this gangster lifestyle and culture, even though it's antithetical to who they are, but then they get pulled into it anyway. You know, as we talked about with King Harris, talking about how hard his life was, and it's like, boy, nothing about your life was hard. You created hardship because you want this. We want this cred or credibility or whatever. I don't know what it's seeking, and I've seen it even in, just watching some college kids, and it's like, baby, the privilege that you see, that you have, and that you but you that kid, you're like, I'm into art, I'm different, and not having a place, and then you get sucked in because you find a place, right? Yeah. There's so many of those, and it's very subtle. So you can find it. It's on Netflix. And it is 10 episodes. They're about 30 minutes or less each episode. And like I said, our good sister, Yvette Nicole Brown, asked us to watch it. So I watched it. And I think more of us should watch it and look at it again, not on the extremes, but look at it, all the humanity in the middle. Look at how our community is, how we pitted against each other. And how certain people are in positions of power. Because, honey, that was interesting to me about how, the mayor and whatever, and how
it was Mayor Heavy Ankle. I thought that was hilarious because obviously you all know that there was a Chicago mayor, Mayor Lightfoot, and Mayor Heavy Ankle. I was like, that is funny to me. Harold's Chicken is a big thing in Chicago. This is like what, Harry's or Henry's?
Yes.
I thought it was interesting, the commentary about the education system and this son who is very creative, and in the question we talking about autism and being on the spectrum, like what happens to that creativity if you're taking drugs to focus and succeed in the schooling setting, but then what happens to your creativity? What happens to other aspects. I thought the episode about the PTS, as we went earlier to the casino and we saw this woman walking in with her dog and then going into the restaurant we thought we was about to go into, and we swiftly changed our mind. I thought the conversation or the commentary about these animals for comfort animals, like this dog is the PTSD dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of those things. So there's definitely a lot in there.
Mm-hmm. So Jodie, when you go back to watch, have a discerning eye, a discerning ear, and then look for the messages, because I think they will all start popping out at you. Even just the
girl, the Elon Musk situation, baby.
Yes.
I was like, so y'all really, I thought, so let me just say this. So there's the commentary, you'll see Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates. I thought that was Tim Cook at first. I was like, but then it ended up being Bill Gates. But I was like, that was interesting too. Because I'm like, these people is trying to enslave us again, ain't they?
I thought you know, sister.
They really trying to enslave us out here.
By seducing you with things that are bright and shiny.
Or some good paying jobs. Let's call it
some good paying jobs, because that's what it was. Gave them a good girl, listen.
And they trying to enslave us again. Okay, but that's enough. We'll continue it when you've seen it, Jodie. Continue the conversation.
And when you see it too, Miss Lakeisha, we gonna have this conversation for sure.
Yes.
Well, Jodie, we are glad that you joined us. We just want to thank you for being so supportive and consistent, and one of the best fans of our show that could ever be. We even had one of our friends from our hometown was like, I can't even comment good because what's the lady's name? She always saying what I want to say. So we want to thank you for saying and being, and I see you have on your Go Grow Get shirt. So I look forward to my Spring into Leadership Women's Conference this week. So because I got a couple messages, I went ahead and opened up the registration link again. So
Nice.
Just so people can, if they can get it in, because final counts and all that has to be into the hotel printer and all that. So springintoleadership.com if y'all interested. But thank you, as I said, for always being a support.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Always happy to support. When I moved here in 2014, you were the first person that came to pick me up and took me to a sorority function. So I'm deeply indebted to you for always being there for me and supporting me as well.
Girl,
It's been a decade.
Out sometimes on it. Ow!
What you saying, sister?
I said that sisterhood works out sometimes, don't it? Ow!
It does. It does. It does. It does. It does.
A decade.
Absolutely. A decade.
Yep.
Yeah, so you have seen my babies grow up.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Okay. Well, sister, anything you want to say to our super fan in closing?
I want to say again, just reiterate everything. Thank you so much for your support, and not just your support of Hey Sister, your support of my sister with Vantage Point Coaching, your support of Spring Into Leadership, your support of her children as they've been growing and maturing, and all of the things, making sure that they're taken care of when, sometimes she has to run out of town and different things like that. We appreciate you. We thank you for being a part of not only the Hey Sister family, but our family. We love you very much. And sister, I wish you the greatest conference. I am so sorry I'm not going to be there this year, but just know, my friend is getting married. So we're doing a bachelorette trip this weekend, but please know that you have my full support. I'm looking forward to hearing all the great things that came out of this year's Spring Into Leadership.
Yes, absolutely. And so with that, y'all, we are signing off. Peace. Good night.